Hello and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by three friends who love cinema. I'm Alvaro and I'm joined by my two co-hosts Nathan and Gus. Tonight you will be staying in room 108, Come On, Come On, the dramatic masterpiece by director Mike Mill. So go ahead, get comfortable, and throw up that do not disturb sign as we discuss Come On, Come On.
So should I call you like Papa or Dad or just Johnny?
What's going on, all you nieces and nephews? Thanks for checking back in the Grand Cinema Hotel. Happy Thanksgiving from us to you. We hope you guys had a good one. Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Super thankful for everyone who supported the podcast so far. It's a good holiday weekend. I hope you guys had a good time. How'd you guys do?
Yeah, I had a good one. Spent some time with some family. Ate way too much food.
Yeah.
Saw a
You
good
made
movie.
food, right, Nate?
Yeah, I did made some turkey and stuff and all the good stuff. So
Wow.
it was nice.
I'm going to have to get some of Nate's Thanksgiving food next year.
I got you. We have plenty right now. If you want some leftovers.
I helped with the Thanksgiving this year. My mother-in-law we didn't do turkey this year. We did ham. They're not big turkey people.
Gotcha.
So we did the ham, but I helped with the sides. I made like the cranberry sauce. I helped with the mac and cheese, and I made the mashed potatoes.
Ooh, the good stuff.
It's
Nice.
you know what's funny is the movie we're talking about today. I felt like it kind of hit me like with Thanksgiving. Is that like now that I'm a little older, I helped make the food for the kids.
Yeah.
And like it's not that I haven't been sitting at the adult table, but to see like a table full of kids eating the food you made was
The
just
generational change.
Yeah, it's just kind of like it hit different like after seeing the movie. You know what I mean?
I did really think this was a good movie for this week.
What about you, Ro? Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I had an okay Thanksgiving. As I compared to your guys' stories, not really. I mean, we kind of turned it more into like, I guess, more Christmassy. We ended up getting my mom an air fryer. So she made some food on the air fryer.
Nice.
That was cool. We never had that. They ended up going to my grandma's. I just stayed back, watched a couple of movies, watched another movie we're going to talk about next week. Yeah, it was a good time, though. I had the 4 days off, so.
Rose used to spending Thanksgiving at my place, but we didn't actually host this year, so.
That's true.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Maybe next year we'll be hosting again. Not too sure. But movie time.
Yeah. Movie time. We saw Come On, Come On this week.
The latest film by Mike Mills.
Yep.
Starring Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
First role since The Joker.
I know. I was so curious to see what he's going to do after coming off of that.
It was really good.
Don't think he disappointed at all.
Right off the bat, really, really good movie.
Yeah.
Let's just start with that.
Yeah.
We probably won't get into any spoilers this episode because this movie's been kind of hard to see. We wanted to see this like 2 weeks ago.
We've been trying, yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying. I think that was one of the reasons why it wasn't on our most anticipated list that we did is because we just kind of knew we were going to do it already. But I kind of wish we had just to maybe get people a little more excited about this movie because I think this is a really good movie for this time of year.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it seems like it's unfortunate that it's kind of hard to watch if you're not in the LA area or very certain theaters around you that seem to be
in
very
the surrounding area. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they're doing that. Maybe they'll release,
They're
roll
doing
it out
LA,
further.
NY. A24 tends to do these slow rollouts with their movies in select cities, and then they'll push it later. Like
'Cause-
maybe next month it'll be
Yeah.
more available.
That makes sense. Because this is a movie that I could see winning some awards or at least be nominated.
See, I don't think it will,
You don't
but
think so?
I think it deserves it, but I don't
think so,
think it
too.
will. I don't think this is the type of movie that's going to get too much love from the Academy. I feel
Maybe
like it's
not.
a little too small, a little too intimate for them.
Is there a category for child actors?
No. Oof, the birds are
The
going
bird-
crazy
bird,
today.
that
Do you
is
guys see?
crazy.
I don't think you guys can hear that, but it sounds like Hitchcock outside. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this movie is going to get nominated really, but Woody Norman, the kid actor, I'm guessing that's why you're asking,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, he's amazing in this film. I learned today that he's British, and then to have that American accent the entire movie.
And have such a good
Oh,
performance.
man, he's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really impressed by his
I don't know if he's actually 9 years old like he is in the movie. Maybe he's a little bit older, but what a phenomenal performance from a kid actor.
Yeah, I can't really think of a movie that's been released in the past couple years that has had a better child acting performance.
I think the reason it also, which makes the movie really good, is that you have two actors that are really like bouncing off each other really well. It's very believable. Joaquin Phoenix is obviously a really good actor, but this kid is matching up his tempo, and it's like you said, not any. I have obviously there's a lot of movies we don't get to watch or haven't seen yet, but lately his performance really stood out to me too. I thought it was really good.
I agree with you. The way that they seem to have really good chemistry together, and like you said, the way that they're able to bounce back and forth in these very emotional scenes was impressive. I was impressed.
I have not seen any of Mike Mills' other films.
Okay.
But I know he did 20th Century Women.
Oh, okay.
That, I believe, was nominated.
It was Best Original Screenplay.
Best Original Screenplay. You know, that's actually funny that that's what it was nominated for, because I was going to mention that the dialogue in this movie and the way it was written is like so believable. It doesn't sound like a movie at all. It really felt like you were just watching in on like someone's actual life. This movie felt very like documentary style more than it did like a feature film.
It did.
And I really liked the way that he was able to capture like a movie that was so intimate, but also had like a lot of scope and scale as well because of like the logistics of the movie. It's like Joaquin Phoenix's job as a radio journalist.
Right.
Just this big movie that goes from like LA to New York to New Orleans, and it's just this story of an uncle raising like helping raise his nephew for a little while.
This movie and Spencer kind of reminded me of a lot of each other, just based on the intimacy. Like you really, like I know we talked about in the Spencer episode, it feels like you're almost transported there and you're watching like a home video or something. I felt the same way with this film. Like I really did feel like you were just watching two family members, you know, experience this experience, you know, like just going through everything that happened. It was very believable, and I don't know. They really reminded me of each other, kind of like that.
I do wonder if the best of the kid gets pushed out in this film, because Joaquin Phoenix was himself like an actor at such a young age, like with a kid and his brother, right?
Yeah, he was a child actor.
So I feel like maybe he's more empathetic to knowing what it's like to be in that position, like, and that makes the kid comfortable and makes his best game come out for this movie.
I saw in an interview with Mike Mills and Joaquin Phoenix that, you know what? It wasn't actually with Joaquin Phoenix. He was with Woody Norman, the kid, right? And they were asking how they found him, and that they were doing like a casting call like they always do, and that Woody Norman was the second kid that they had seen, and he was like, This is perfect.
Wow.
And that they didn't even know that he was like, they're like, oh, he's British. And Mike Mills was like, oh, an American kid who lives over there. And they're like, no, like he's British. And like, so he's like, he has the accent and everything. And like, he really just blew him away. And that this movie was like really hard to get made because Mike Mills had to like convince Joaquin Phoenix that this movie would work, that they had met a couple of times. And they discussed the script, and they went through the script where Joaquin Phoenix was playing his character, and then Mike Mills would play the other parts. And Joaquin Phoenix didn't believe that they were going to be able to find a kid who could do this movie.
Wow.
And then when they found Woody, he was just like ecstatic that, like, okay, like we can get this made now, because he said if it wasn't Woody, that they probably wouldn't have made this movie because it was too precious to him it was too precious. He didn't want to just make the movie not the right way.
Right. I could see that.
That's really cool.
And I also, I'm happy that they were able to find him, because without Joaquin Phoenix, I also feel this movie probably doesn't work as well.
No.
Like, how many people can really give that honest and open of a performance? I saw a lot of people saying that they felt like Joaquin Phoenix was just playing himself.
I don't feel that way.
I don't feel that way at all. But I think I take that as more of a compliment to his acting, because he really did feel like just such a everyday normal person.
Yeah, I feel like it only takes about 20 minutes or so before like the facade of it being a movie kind of fades away.
Right.
And you're just in the world now with them.
You really get transported.
Yeah, I told Alvaro when the movie ended that I was like, I couldn't see it ending for some reason. I didn't want it to end. I was like, so am I just going to watch this uncle raise his nephew for like
years and years and
years?
years.
Yeah, years, like some documentary series where I just keep checking in on them. But yeah, I don't feel that way at all.
I don't know.
I think I get what they're saying about Joaquin Phoenix's like demeanor, how he kind of carries himself, but I mean it plays with the dynamic in the dynamics of the movie. Like it makes sense for his character to be somewhat like how he is in real life, but when you realize like what's going, like the things that he's been through just recently, like heartbreak and like a loss of a family member.
Come on.
Yeah, come on. What are you talking about? That he's just acting like himself.
Exactly.
He's been through some shit in the movie, and that's why he has this like attitude towards life.
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to the director, Mike Mills. I know you said you hadn't seen any of his films.
No.
I have seen his film. Was it The Beginners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's with Ewan McGregor.
Ewan
right?
McGregor and Christopher Plummer. And Christopher Plummer won supporting actor for that.
What year is that?
I think it's like early 2010s maybe.
Okay.
I'm not positive. I don't have it written down. But no, that movie's phenomenal. I haven't seen 20th Century Woman, but it does seem that Mike Mills really has this grasp and understanding on how to present like families and family dramas and stuff that everybody deals with. But I don't know. I feel like with a lot of dramas, they kind of push it down your throat. Like, you know, just like crank up the waterworks. Like, let's make this as sad as possible. And with Beginners and then this movie, Come On, Come On, I didn't feel like that was the case. Everything I felt was very believable. Like the stuff that they were dealing with, the issues with, you know, father and, you know, all that stuff in the movie, it felt believable. And that makes it even more dramatic and heart-wrenching, I think, to me. Is the fact that it is a real story that happens to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I saw him say that Beginners was about his father, 20th Century Women is about his mother, and then this movie is about his son. And that he was really nervous about how to like approach this movie because I believe, and excuse me if I'm wrong, I believe I heard him say this, that's because his parents have passed away, that it was easier for him to make those movies because he's their child. So like he felt entitled to his opinion and like what he had to say about like his parents, and that's why he made those movies. But like with his, he also didn't realize that like because he has like sisters, that they also had to deal with like the repercussions of like him making a movie about his family. He said once that and I'm probably gonna butcher the analogy, but like the sad clown, like Pagliacci or whatever, like going to the doctor and the doctor's like, oh, you should go watch this clown. It's like, oh, I'm the clown. Yeah, but that he's had people like mention his movies to him who didn't know that he was the director, that he should watch that movie because it would probably really help him out.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And like the same thing with his sister, like his sisters have been told like, oh, you should check out this movie, and it's like, yeah, that movie's about my dad, that movie's about my mom. Like,
wow.
Yeah, so that with like this being about his kid, like the reason he didn't want to make it a father-son movie is because he felt like if it was an uncle, that it would play better this idea of not knowing how to raise a child,
like navigating raising a kid.
Yeah, like so for every second, every sequence of this movie, Joaquin Phoenix doesn't know what he's doing because he's not a dad, and he's kind of like emotionally stunted a little bit because of what's happened to him. So now every single moment is just like it's added drama because he doesn't have any like idea of how to even approach this at all.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so that was really why he didn't want to do like the father-son route. But I still think that he portrays like a father-son relationship kind of beautifully in this movie with like very little words. It's mostly montage sequences. And it's Scoop McNairy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. I love Scoop McNairy. I'm familiar with him from Narcos Mexico.
I knew he's in that. I've seen him in True Detective season 3.
Oh, he's in that season?
He's really good in that season.
Shows up in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, he was in that.
He does.
And Godless, it's a miniseries on Netflix. It's a Western. It's really good if you haven't seen it.
Oh, Nate likes the Western series. Who could have seen this coming?
But it's good. It's him and Jeff Daniels. It's phenomenal. But yeah, Scoot McNairy was in it. He was in it for such, not a long time, obviously a supporting role, but when he was in it, I felt like he did a really good job.
And he also, I felt, because of the way they used his character with like so little like dialogue between him and the mother, who's played by Gabby Hoffman, and she's like phenomenal in this role. And the way she was able to, well, I'm getting kind of ahead of myself, but yeah, she was really, really good in that role. But with Scoop McNairy, I like the way that he was able to portray that like warmness of like a beautiful father-son relationship just through his like body acting. And that was one of the times where I really like noticed, and it hit me like while I was watching it, like this is so good, like on an acting level, was just watching him and Woody Norman like play little games where they're mimicking each other's like movements. Like he'll like pretend to play the piano, and like Woody Norman will pretend to play the piano, and then like he'll pretend to get in a car and drive away, and then he does it as well. And I was like, I know that's probably like basic acting class stuff that they teach actors when they're really young, like how to actually act and not just pretend. But that alone, like that small little acting exercise that they were doing with each other, I was just like, wow, this is so good.
It was good.
I think that's what's cool. That plays a big part of why this movie works is we as an audience don't get much from his character as a dad. And those are the memories, like neither does he. He has very small memories with his dad.
Yeah,
and
that's a really good point.
Very, like what you said, tactile. Like there was no talking. It was very like I have these memories. And then that's why we can relate with the kid and know that there's something missing there. Like he has a father that loves him, but as we'll talk about later, there's something impeding them from actually having a real relationship. So all he has is these memories.
I feel like I really like that point. That's a really good point. Sorry, I'm getting a little caught up on that. But I feel like that's just the way like we are as kids is like you have these memories and they're kind of like these little like sequences in your head, like with your own music of like, oh yeah, like when me and my dad were young and we used to play, and like, you know, you don't necessarily always remember the good and the bad stuff. You just kind of remember these times. And then for him to like really show them in a way that was just like, so I'm going to keep saying this is like just warm. Like that's how I felt watching this movie.
It's a very warm
and like
movie.
It was like a nice hug that I needed, you know what I mean?
It
After
was.
some
It
of the
really
cold
was.
movies we've seen recently.
Just everything.
They allude to that too in the movie. There's a part in it where he tells him about like remembering stuff, you know, and he tells him like, "You're not gonna remember this trip."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, but I am. We're like, what do you mean? And it's bouncing back to what you're saying. You'll grow up, and things will mean so much to you, but you start to forget detail. You start to only remember.
It's like the way that I think about that personally is like looking back on things as a kid and remembering things. Like it's almost like a trailer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have this. I remember that I went and did this like to Disneyland or something, but you don't remember exactly what happened. You
Not
don't
every
remember how
single
long you
minute.
waited in line. You don't remember what you ate probably, but you do have this little highlight reel of things. And then so for them to be able to like, I don't know, kind of really grasp onto that. And then at the end, when Joaquin Phoenix is explaining to the kid, like, you are going to forget most of this.
Yeah.
It's just it's a feeling that I think everybody knows. It's like, it's the feeling that this will become nostalgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this moment is going to become nothing but nostalgia. And I don't know. It's such a human feeling. I just love it.
That's a really good point
I
as well.
connected with it really hard.
You
on
guys
that.
are making some fire points today. The both of you.
I said,
I feel like it's because this movie that's how good this movie
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like anybody that's a human needs to see this movie. I feel like,
this
you know,
movie
It's
breaks-
relatable to everyone.
Sorry to keep cutting you off.
No,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, just a quick point, but this movie breaks the fourth wall in that way. Not like it talking to you, but emotionally it connects with you. And then, like you guys said, this movie I wish people could see for Thanksgiving, because like you have maybe your father's not there anymore, or your father's been gone in your life because of whatever reasons, and you see stuff like this, and it shows you that it's not supposed to be easy. And
Yeah.
that's how it breaks the fourth wall. For
I
me.
really like what you said about how it breaks the fourth wall, because I feel like it does this literally with like throughout this film. Joaquin Phoenix, he's a radio journalist, right?
He's doing like a documentary series.
Right, and he's interviewing children to see what their views on are upon like for the future. Most of those interviews were real kids,
Yeah,
and
I
their
did
real
see that.
thoughts about that.
Right.
So in that sense, it really does break the fourth wall, and it brings you the youth thoughts on the future. And I just think it's interesting, like looking back on it, because I had a lot of those same thoughts, and it's just interesting looking back on it when you're older and seeing how things change. And like, I don't know, this movie was just what it tried to accomplish. I thought it did really well.
It made me like feel kind of like a kid again, even though we're I wouldn't say like on the Joaquin Phoenix side of life,
Yeah.
but just getting older and being closer to like being 30, and just. But this movie like hit me in so many different ways, because I feel like it was so much more personal than like a lot of the movies, probably all of the movies that we've talked about so far, where it made me think about like my life, you know what I mean? And like, I guess I'll get it like a little personal. I'm not going to say too much, but me and my wife have like, it's one of her little cousins who we've really helped like take care of like always. And like, I met her when she was like 2 years old. is like when I first started dating my wife, and now she's 10 or 11. And she remembers so much about like all of the like good times that we've had with her, because like every time we see her, we would like make it a point to like, I want her to have like the best time that she can have like when she's with us. It's because I always remember like when I used to have like a good time with like an older cousin or like an uncle, like how much that still means to you today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like she remembers like when she was, and this is how I know kids can really remember like things that are important to them, even if they don't remember the individual moments. Like she'll remember when she was 2 years old and we took her to Disneyland. She's like, do you remember when I was like crying and then I would like fall asleep and then you got mad because I was crying and then you took me on this ride and then we went home, and like she'll bring it up every single time we see her. She'll talk about it to her mom or her grandma, like, do you remember when they took me? And they're like, yes, we remember when they took you. And like that means a lot to me because it meant a lot to me when I was a kid that someone that wasn't my parents would take their time to like want to form a bond with me. Right. You know what I mean? And I think one of the main messages in this movie is about how it's a cliche saying, but like how it takes a village to raise a kid. And you see that like Joaquin Phoenix has to help his nephew, but then the real world doesn't wait for you and your family's problems. So he has to go back to work, and his radio journalist partner helps him with the kid. One of their assistants helps them with the kid. Random people are kind of watching the kid for a moment when they go to New Orleans. And I remember nights where like my parents would, oh, okay, we're going to go to a concert tonight. You know, parents want to have a night out, and I would go stay with an uncle, or I would go stay with an older cousin. And even though I knew my parents were going to come back, those times would be scary. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it'd be like, damn, I do want my mom, or I do want my dad, because you're not my mom or you're not my dad. And then to see like Woody Norman's character go through that throughout the movie is like what I mean about this being so personal. Is I feel like so many of us have these interactions. I think so. And then what you were talking about not like squeezing all the drama out of this is like what I'm saying is it would be something as simple as like my parents just going on a vacation without me. Right. But it didn't have to be as dramatic as like my parents died. Exactly. You know what I mean? Exactly. Because even when you're a kid, your parents going on a vacation or going out for the night, it kind of feels like this, especially when you don't understand what's going on. So I just feel like this movie really hits like so many people's personal memories about their childhood as well, because we've all kind of been through this.
I think it does.
And there's like you have all of this that you just talked about that we've been discussing, and then you also have this kid that is aware that his father is sick. He does have a very good dynamic with her mom, where the mom is telling him, trying to explain to him what's wrong with their dad. Then you have the mom and Joaquin Phoenix, their brothers, they have their mother that was sick with also, I'm guessing also has to do with bipolar disorder, some type of mental disorder. But so you have a whole family who has these issues that obviously is running through. And then you add all of the real life stuff that's happening. Life doesn't stop for you. And I think that's where this movie becomes very, very personal to some people. And it really, the way that they portray that anxiety from both sides, like, I don't know how to help her raise this kid, and this kid trying to find normality in this weird situation is where this movie like excels. No, it's like, I think it's really good.
I think we should talk about the mom.
Yeah.
Played by Gabby Hoffman.
Viv, right?
I'm not really too familiar with her, but I am now.
You know she was in Uncle Buck?
No, is she the little girl
Maisie
from Uncle Buck?
That's why I thought you said that.
No. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had mentioned to Nate. Me and Nate, Uncle Buck stands.
I love it. Yeah, that's a great movie.
See, this is what I mean. My one night when I was young, I spent the night at an aunt's house, and she showed us that movie because she really liked that movie. And like, so that's something that still sticks with me to this day is Uncle Buck, because I remember watching it with one of my aunts. Your aunt.
That's cool.
And then for her to be in this movie now,
yeah,
that's just like a weird little full circle moment for me.
Gus had texted me and said that, it would be a perfect double feature for this movie is Uncle Buck. And I was like, you're right. And then I'm like, it could literally be like her growing up, and then that's her family. Like, it just keeps on going. But
yeah, seriously.
But yeah, no, she was super good in this film. I honestly don't even think I've seen anything with her in it since she's been older. I think maybe the only film I've seen with her is Uncle Buck.
I know she is in quite a few things.
She's in Girls, I think.
Oh, really?
HBO series.
I seen a funny quote today because I was looking on IMDb about her. And she was like, I don't necessarily like, I like my job, I just don't like doing it often. So maybe that's
Fair
why
enough.
we're not so familiar with
She's in
her.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a long ass time ago. Though. That's closer to Uncle Buck than it is to now.
It is.
But yeah, she's phenomenal in this movie, and she really does a good job of carrying, like the weight that mothers carry. She kind of has to walk Joaquin Phoenix through this entire thing, and she's parenting him while he's parenting her child. And most of her dialogue is like through the phone, which is kind of like I found it to be like that's kind of like a challenging thing to really get like a good emotional performance out of, but I thought she did a really good job. It didn't bother me at all that most of the time she's just sitting there talking on the phone.
No, I thought it was an accomplishment, honestly. Yeah. No, I thought she did really good. Like you said, she really did carry the weight of, the maternal weight that is being a mother. It really just made me think about my mom and just, all the times when you're, like you said, Gus, when you're away, and just the constant communication and making sure that everything is okay is something that you don't think about as a kid. Like, you don't think about that stress and that, I don't know. So I thought she did a really good job.
She really had the toughest job. I mean, she's got a husband who's going through it, and he's in a different side of the state. And then she's got a kid who she's trying her best to explain what's going on.
And then she's also, like, her and Joaquin Phoenix are mending their relationship that's been broken. Yeah. So it's just so much.
And I also think a lot of what this kid shows is like anxiety, or he's predisposed, obviously, this kid to also follow the same route, which they kind of talk about a little bit. But that's also her trying to manage that, to check to make sure that this kid doesn't have manic episodes where they become very serious due to, like, because obviously this kid's trying to also understand what's going on. It's not normal.
I did really like in the movie how she made it a point to even tell Joaquin Phoenix that she was trying to allow her son to express his emotions, because she was worried that that's obviously the problem that happened with it, his father.
Exactly.
But that's more of a clinical, diagnosis with him. But, like, yeah, she's just trying to make sure that her kid understands and knows how to express his emotions, because she knows that he is a bit different than most normal kids. Like, he doesn't have friends, he says.
That's a good point.
He only spends time with adults. Really.
Exactly. Yeah. And so those are, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but those are warning signs, I feel like, as a parent. So her just trying to get through that is just so much. This movie was so good. It really was.
Yeah, I really liked that it was shot in black and white. They asked Mike Mills why he decided to do it, and he was like, well, many reasons. I'm sure one of them is because it just looks fucking cool.
Like you keep saying, it's the warmness of it, Yeah. Like, I feel like it gives it that extra layer.
I made a stupid little joke where I kept going, where's the rest of the movie? Because of the format. Yeah. It's kind of like a rectangle, and there's still some, like, black bars on the screen. I think it was like 1 by 4.3 or 1 by 143 or
something. Wasn't traditional. It looked good.
Yeah, I'm not really too knowledgeable about the different aspect ratios, to be honest. I can just tell when I'm seeing something different.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just something about black and white I feel like kind of takes you out of reality. I've really thought about it. There's this one shot where when Joaquin Phoenix gets to LA and he parks his he either gets out of a taxi or he parks the rental car that he has, and it just showed LA in this different, like, way that you don't really see too often.
I know exactly.
Whereas, like, the neighborhood, and then you can see, like, the big city
I love that
behind
shot.
it. And I kind of thought, I was like, if this was in color, I really don't think this would look as
cool,
like, lush as it does.
I just remember I was looking at that and I was like, that just looks like every Southern California neighborhood I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah. So I just think. I think Mike Mills said that, like, it was the taking you out of reality and putting you into a different world that black and white allows. That, I guess, color, it's not that it doesn't do the same thing, but
I just think it's a visual switch, so you have to differentiate. Like, that's not what life looks like. So I am watching something.
Yeah, like, I'm watching a movie. I'm watching a story. I'm not just I think it maybe helps with that documentary aspect.
That's
of
what I was
it
going to say too.
It'd maybe be a little too documentary if it was in color, if that makes sense.
As simple as it seems like a maneuver to just change into black and white, I think is when your brain sees something visually change into that, then you can start to see it. You know that you're following not any regulations or rules from outside, but you're in this story and it's in its regulations.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about oh shoot. Sorry. Well, obviously I want to keep talking about the movie. I kind of lost my train of thought for a second. I got caught up looking at a mosquito outside.
It's okay.
Sorry about that,
It's
guys.
all good.
What I was going to say was that this movie. Oh, sorry. I remember now. I wanted to talk about the kids that they were interviewing.
Okay, yeah.
There we go. That stupid mosquito. I don't know why I got so caught up looking at it outside. It's because it kept banging on the door.
Me looking now.
The kids that they were interviewing in this movie, I know that Nate said earlier that those are real kids that they were interviewing and they were asking them real questions. I saw Mike Mills say that the kids had no idea that Joaquin Phoenix was going to be the interviewer.
Okay.
So like some of these kids are like, why the hell is the Joker interviewing me?
That's so funny. That's so funny. That's kind of crazy.
They also, because they're little kids, I guess they kind of just went along with it and they're like, okay, I guess this is what he does too. And those answers that those kids gave were really, really deep.
That's what I was gonna say.
And I think that the older you get, you sometimes forget that when you're a kid, you have these like really big concerns for the entire world, not just yourself. And I mean, it's warm. It was beautiful, like I keep saying, but I don't know how else to describe this movie.
It was real.
Yeah, except like seeing the good in humanity.
I did want to talk about that. I felt like this movie was like, what did I even say? I thought it was like an honest look at life. Like it was a realistic approach to life. And it was like, it wasn't super, it was more on the optimistic side than pessimistic, but I wouldn't even say that it's just truly optimistic. It's just like
It's
a
just
realistic appreciation of the world that we have, you know?
Yeah. I mean, even when you're going through these things, like how the kid is going through with his dad, there's still like a lot of like precious moments that he's having with his uncle that he wouldn't have if this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Because Joaquin Phoenix says in the beginning of the movie that he hasn't seen his nephew in like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that she's like, he's grown so much. And like throughout the movie, the kid kind of tells him like, you don't even know me. And he can't really say anything because he doesn't and he hadn't made that effort before. And now he's with them 24/7 for like, I think it's like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
probably like
probably
span
two and a half weeks maybe.
Yeah. And he has to like just build this relationship in this small amount of time. And it's real because I mean, I'm sure we've all spent time with family members that we didn't really know that well.
Mm-hmm.
And you do get to know them like pretty quickly once you're spending this kind of time with them, you know? You're like, what the hell? And like, I feel like your family members are more likely to share stuff with you too. Like when your parents aren't necessarily
you get
around.
like a different side of people. Like,
Yeah, because they have to be real, especially if they're not parents. So I just, like I said, this movie just really hit me on like a personal level. It was very similar to a lot of things I went through as a kid. Not necessarily like the stuff with my dad having like issues like that, but just getting to know your family.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're really young.
growing up and understanding emotions and, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a weird dynamic there between them because the kid was aware that his mom and him hadn't been talking for a long time. And he's curious as to, well, what's up? Like, what? Because she probably won't share too much as to why. Or she does tell him because there's certain things that he knows about him that he's also taken back that he knows.
Kids really know how to ask those questions that like hit you right. They pierce the armor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just hit you in this place where it's like, it brings you back to reality. Like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
There's a couple moments in this movie where, and this is why Woody Norman is so good. It's like he takes control of the scene.
Yep.
And it's like, it's my scene now, and I'm in charge, and I'm going to ask you some questions. And then Joaquin Phoenix becomes the vulnerable one.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is like that when you're talking to a kid because they know how to they got that death beam right on you.
Exactly.
when they want to, they have it right on you and they don't pull any punches because they are generally curious to why you're not married, why you don't have kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the older you get, these are not questions that you're if you can't answer this question, how are you going to tell a little kid?
Exactly. That's a good point.
Because that's like one of the questions that he asked him makes him kind of like sit back and think about it. And he goes, well, you'll get it. Well, I hope you don't get it, actually. It's like one of those things like this happened to me and I can't. answer this question for you because even I don't understand why this happened.
He's like, I just hope it doesn't. You don't have to deal with it.
But you also only will understand once it happens.
Exactly.
To you. And to have that's like you're saying, like sometimes when you're talking to a little kid, them asking you that question is the first time you thought, what is the real answer to this? What is the black and white? This is the question. What is the answer to this? And that's not how life is. And so to explain that to a kid, like you said, in this movie, there's just the scenes where he takes over the scene because of that. It shows you how
it's the way kids take over in real life.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, why aren't you married? I'm not ready. Why aren't you ready? It's complicated. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't understand because you're a kid.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get it yet. And I'm an adult and I don't get it. So I don't know how I'm supposed to break this down in a way that you're going to understand.
Exactly.
Break it down to me like I'm 5 years old,
Yeah.
right? Michael Scott?
Yeah, exactly. I like everything that you guys are saying. I did see some people say that they thought that what was written for Jesse in this movie, for the kid actor, they thought it was a little bit too adult maybe, and you could tell it was written by adult, but
Oh, no. Yeah, a 10-year-old wrote this movie.
but like, what are you gonna have? Like, you're just gonna have I don't know. I feel like people don't give kids as much credit for as smart as how smart they really are. Like everything that we're talking about right now. Like they see things, they notice things, they see patterns in people's, lives. And I feel like a lot of people do just write kids off and they hit them with the old, oh, because I told you, because I said so.
Yeah.
Like that's not an answer. And I feel like this movie it's almost a look is what if you don't answer those questions with that response? Like what if you really do have this kind of give and take relationship with your kid or with your nephew or whoever, and like hopefully that really does help them for the future, like help them understand things better and see things more clearly, because I think that's what, I don't know, a lot of problems that people have is you get older and you're like, oh shit, this is how it really is. Whereas if you can prepare kids and get them to understand their emotions better when they're younger, maybe they'll be more prepared to make positive changes in the future.
I think there's proof in that too, to back up what you're saying, just by what we heard from the kids, because they're real questions and their responses to it, like you guys were saying, is a little bit more, I guess, more mature than you would expect, but that's because you have low expectations for kids. I know that they edited it. I'm sure they asked 100 kids, and one kid had a dumb answer.
I don't know. Huh? When they ask them what to think about the
pizza
future.
and girls and video games.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, that's fine. But there's also kids who have been exposed to things and they're smart and they pick it up and they know that like their relationship with their parents, they saw that they didn't work out, so they're forced to know what a divorce is. And so though that kid he has a different view in life.
It did not go over my head that the locations they chose to go were New Orleans, Detroit, and then LA and New York. It's a lot of like lower income areas, and they were asking some of these kids about like what they know about Katrina, you know what I mean, when they're in New Orleans. Or I think like one kid talks about how they don't have a dad, so he is okay with his sister looking up to him as like being the dad. Yeah. There's just like, so, and that's what I mean about like there's these moments where like, and like even Woody Woody Norman, Jesse, he lives a pretty like I'd say lavish lifestyle for a kid, but you even see that it doesn't matter that just because the lifestyle he has doesn't mean that he's not going through something as well.
Exactly.
And he's going like all these. They found kids who are really going through shit. You know what I mean? They didn't just find kids who are pizza and video games. Like kids who have actually seen and been through shit. And like that is why those types of kids are more emotionally mature, because they're forced to, not because they want to be.
Exactly.
And I did like that a lot of those kids that, I think it was a girl that they interviewed from Detroit. She just kept talking about like hope in the future.
Yeah.
Just kept talking about how she's hopeful that it's just so good. Like, I don't know, seeing the hope that the kids have in places like that.
You forget how hopeful you were when you were a kid,
Exactly.
right? About everything.
The
being
hope and the
better.
dreams and the aspirations and
Yeah, this movie really was just. It's definitely one of my favorite ones that we've seen.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it again. Anytime I see like a little snippet of it, or like when I'm flipping through Instagram and like the promotional story will come up, it just it looks so good. I'm like, I want to be in that world, and like the soundtrack they picked is so perfect. It just earlier what you said about like nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like right now we're in a time that is so obsessed with nostalgia and like reliving it, but I felt like this movie was creating
Like
nostalgia.
true nostalgia.
Yeah. And I know we mentioned like the kid talking about forgetting stuff, right? And there's this like narrative device that goes on throughout the movie where Joaquin Phoenix every night records like kind of like a podcast. Maybe that's why this movie was hitting so close to home too, right?
He's like us.
Yeah, that's me. He like does a nightly journal and says everything that happened, even down to the small moments, like, and then you were mad at me, and then I made you feel better, and then we went and did this, and then you fell asleep, and then you woke up, and because the kid tells him, like, well, Joaquin Phoenix tells the kid, like, you're gonna forget all of this, and he's like, well, can you make sure I don't forget all of it? Like, can you do something so I don't forget all of it? And then at the end of the movie, you see that he gives him like the recordings, and he play like it's something for him to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I was recently telling my mom that I wanted to start doing that. Like, I know we're doing the podcast, obviously, but I kind of want to start recording these like intimate conversations, like with my wife or like my mom or like even just like my friends, like not about anything, but just talking. So like in 20 years, I can play it back and be like, what was I talking about then? Like, what was I worried about? Like, what did I think about what was going to happen in the future? And like, how different is my life than what I thought it would be like?
I was thinking about that, like, probably like the second half of the movie. I was like, that would be really cool to do something like that. Because, I mean, I used to keep a journal and stuff, and even, I don't really so much anymore, but going back and reading it like 3-4 years ago, it's just crazy.
And you were worried about so many different things than you are now, right?
Like, nothing is the same.
And then you see, like, the things you worried about when you were younger, you're like, why was I even worried about that, right? But it felt like it was the end of the world. It was
the end of the world.
Yeah.
It really, though.
And I really loved that the kid, like, was like learning to like express himself in this movie, because I mean that's so important, like when you're a kid, is to like feel like you're allowed to express yourself.
One of like towards the end of the movie when him and Joaquin Phoenix, I mean their time together is basically over, and Jesse is just not dealing with, he's unhappy, and Joaquin Phoenix is just trying to get him to say that you're not happy.
Yeah.
And he just keeps saying, I'm fine. He's like, just say that you're not fine.
And that
Scream
it's
it
okay.
out.
That's such a good
Yell it out. Just let it out. And they start screaming and yelling and just keep going back and forth. And then by the end of it, they're both like laughing and crying, and they can have that embrace to say goodbye. And it's just so good. The emotional intelligence behind this movie, I loved it. I really loved it.
Even like he spent this time with his uncle, and he wanted to go home. He missed his mom, but then when it was time to leave his uncle, he didn't want to leave his uncle either. You know what I mean? Because it's like, damn, now I'm gonna be missing out on this. Like, I remember when like maybe like an uncle from out of state would come visit. Like, I would cry when they would leave, because I'd be like, I know I'm not gonna see you for like a really long time. And like when you're a kid, even a year feels like forever.
That's what I'm saying. You drive in the car for 30 minutes and it's
like,
a lifetime.
Yeah. And then you're like, I might not like, okay, recently I seen a cousin that I hadn't seen in like 15 years. That was so wild.
That's crazy,
to me.
yeah.
And then like when I left, I was like, is it going to be like another 15 years? Like, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's like you don't even know the person anymore, but it still feels so familiar when you see him again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this movie really, really hit, man.
It did. It brought tears to my eyes. Like,
I know. I looked
end.
over and Nate had he had one tear like Denzel in Glory.
I was like,
that's what he said in the car.
I looked at guys. I was like, it was really good. Don't look at me. But it was really
the first.
Good.
It was the first tears of the Grand Cinema.
It was. They well deserved, man.
Yeah, man. I don't think any movie is gonna hit like this.
For
not
a while,
like this.
Probably.
I think I told you guys before, like the movies we had watched. So I watched this on Wednesday, and then I watched the movie they were gonna talk about next after it. And then I watched Punch Drunk Love, and then I was like that's pretty 3 sad movies to go through. You know what I mean? But
you okay, buddy?
But that's why. But that's why the other movie we're gonna talk about, I felt like it's talking about the same message in a different way, and to I guess really experience that type of feeling during Thanksgiving is what really made me more thankful that I'm not like, I have my issues with my family, but they're not that. And I think that's like when you know a movie is really good, because it makes you relate to your situation, even though it might not be the exact same thing. And then yeah, so this movie, I wish I could watch it again. Like, it's one of the movies that I wish we could watch on Apple TV or something. But
yeah,
because there's so much more, I wish I could remember what the kids were saying specifically in those, because they're just overlaying factors of what the movie's trying to tell you and just teach you these lessons. And yeah, kids obviously know it, but to remind you as an adult, because you might have forgotten by now what these bad moments or good moments are all about.
Yep. this yeah, man, this fucking movie. I mean, shit, even I feel like now, like sometimes when I'll talk to my mom, I'll say something to her and she'll be like, "Thank you, because you reminded me of like something I taught you." You know what I mean? And it's like, and for her, like that's it. Like it's important, you know. Like she realizes like that stuck with him, and now like he's telling me, and I taught him that. You know what I mean? And
I have moments
it's
like
just
that
like
too.
the
It's
cycle.
so cool.
Like it's just like it just shows you how like the older you get too. Like it's not that you parent your parents, but that they can see like their hard work pay off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of like, I raised a good person.
It's validating. It's validating to them to see, like, oh, something that I taught you are still using, or that's where your morals come from. It sticks to what I taught you at first.
Yeah, man, this fucking movie.
And Tina has us mostly what we've been talking about is what this movie made us feel, and like that's the type of movie that it was, and why I think it's so good. Is other movies were way more like a lot of the movies that we've seen this year, like something like Dune, for example. Like we're so entrapped in the fantasy of that. But this is like real life. This is real gritty. This is relatable. This is almost knowledge, like reading a book to make you feel like this is how you should look at your life.
I can guarantee you, almost anybody has been through this movie.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no way.
there's no whether like the situations vary obviously, but I can almost guarantee every single person has gone through what happens in this movie.
Yeah, it's a movie about life. Like
yeah,
life
it really
itself.
is.
And the give and take that there is between the older generations and the younger
I
generations.
rarely feel like this thankful for a movie when I walk out like that.
Exactly.
Not thankful that the movie, like what it did, but how it made me feel about like my own life.
This is a movie like I wanted to go hug my mom. I wanted to reach out to like it's just one of those movies where it makes you think about those things.
This is a perfect movie for this weekend,
It
and I
is.
wish more people could have seen it.
I know.
If you please go see this movie when you can. Hopefully you won't have to drive too far out of your own area to go see it. We luckily didn't have to, but it just really sucks that this movie is
And
not
even if
being promoted that way.
Even if you did have to take a trip to go see it, it would be worth it.
Yeah, it would be worth it.
It really would
It would
be.
be worth it. Take some family with you. Take whoever you're thankful for, because I'm sure they'll appreciate it as well.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, do you guys want to start wrapping it up?
Yeah.
I don't think we have too much more
No,
to say,
I don't think
right?
so. I really just want to say I'm really appreciative of this movie. I'm really appreciative of Mike Mills for this. This was just such a unique movie, and the ability that it had to, to bring all this together. It was impressive. It's a perfect movie for the holidays, I think. Go see this movie. I love it.
Mike Mills, if you happen to hear this, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. It's such a good movie.
You guys want to rate it? What do you guys give it?
Oh, 5 families out of 5. I think this is a perfect movie.
I think so
really
too.
do.
I keep teetering between 4.5 and 5, and it's a perfect. It's a
I
perfect
put on,
movie.
on Letterboxd, I gave it a 5, but on my Instagram, when I did my little like poster with the rating that I always do, I said 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Is
so-
that good?
I think this is a perfect movie.
Yeah, I do too.
I had it at I had it at a 4, and the more I talk about it now, I have it at a 4.5 out of 5. Basically, yeah, nearly perfect movie. Obviously, about a very I guess I would say a point of view of life or how to take life. So whether that's for somebody they agree or not, I guess that's maybe what might be like deter someone from thinking it's a 5. But I think it's well executed in almost every way, visually, story wise, and especially the acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say just this one funny thing that I wanted to bring up was I just kept thinking about it because he's like, "You've never been to New York?"
Oh,
And I kept thinking
he
about that.
gatekeep the 9-year-old.
Exactly. That's so funny.
Yeah. What do you mean you never been to New York? Do
He's-
you even travel?
He's looking at him like, "What do you mean?"
It's like, I'm 9.
But that even just bounces back exactly. Like he's treating him like an adult already,
Yeah.
just right off the bat. And that just continues in the movie. But yeah, this movie was great. I loved it.
Do you have a rating for it, Nate?
I'm gonna give it a 4.5 right now.
4.5?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 4.5. I want to see it again. I swear, I see it again. I think it'll be a 5, but it
Alright,
was really
guys.
good.
So we highly regard this movie. I guess on average, it's a 4.5 out of 5, even though I give it the 5. But yeah, man. Do you guys have a code word? No
Keyword, yeah.
code word.
Family.
And
I like-
you have to do what are
Dom
those little
Toretto.
things? Asterisks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, DM us asterisk Dom Toretto voice family. No, you don't have to do all that. Just DM us family if you made it this far into the episode. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Appreciate all you YouTubers out there subscribing to the channel, commenting, interacting with us. Means the world to us. Super thankful for you guys. If this movie taught me anything, it's to be a little more thankful for everything.
Yeah.
Go
Tell your mom that you love her.
Yeah. Go give a niece or nephew a hug if you have one. Let them know that you care about them. Just anybody in your life that you care about. Yeah. DM us, Grand Cinema Hotel on Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Bye, family.
Goodbye. Family.